Hello, so we're in my backyard talking about why plants are so important to us as human beings. And the thing that'll probably come to our mind first is plants provide our food supply. From blackberries, in a blackberry patch, we've got raspberries over here. We've got strawberries. The strawberries aren't on, although we've got a second set of strawberries coming on. We got zucchinis over there, and I'm going to take you into my garden and just show you some of the diversity of food that comes from plants in a really small space. So here we have our patch of tomatoes, and you can see all the tomatoes that are coming on. Tomatoes are a really important part of our food supply. And then we got potatoes over there. We've got bell peppers, squash, cucumbers, and we eat from our garden during this part of the summer almost every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll just come out here, collect things from the garden. We have grapes in the back, and then the tomatoes will actually can and eat those year round. So about 80% of our calories in our diet come from 5 major plant crops. And the other thing that comes from, and then the other thing to recognize is that when we aren't eating plants directly, we are eating animals, meat, that ate a plant, so we're still eating a plant just indirectly through the animals that we're eating. One thing that's really important that we often don't recognize that plants provide for us is flavor for our food. So a lot of students are foodies. They like not just food, not just calories, but food that tastes a certain way. And a lot of that comes from herbs and spices that almost always come from plants. So a good example of that here is basil, which we use often. We will make pizzas in an outdoor pizza oven, put tomatoes, green peppers on there, and then basil. And I'll just crush this up. It has this just incredible aroma that most of you are probably familiar with. It's really good. Here's another plant we've been growing in our garden. It kind of goes crazy. This is fennel. It tastes like black licorice, has that licorice flavor, and it's used to flavor black licorice. Come over here. My wife has planted an herb garden with all oregano and all just different types of herbs. And we'll come out here and we'll collect herbs, leaves, and we'll put it into our dishes to give them flavor. You can think about things like, well, here you go. Let's go look. We have our onions. Can you imagine eating food without the flavor of onions or garlic? We don't have garlic planted, but we have onions here. And we planted the onions for flavor, to flavor the food that we eat. So food and flavor for food is a really important thing that plants give to us. A second thing that plants do, I'm gonna go right over here, is they provide medicine for us. So about 25% of the medicines that we use come from plants. Here's a quaking aspen, and you can take and extract a compound from the bark of aspens called salicylic acid. It's aspirin. And so early on, this was discovered by humans, and it's been used for a long period of time to deal with headaches and other issues. Now it's commonly used to reduce the heart attacks. The third thing that plants do is they give us raw materials for our shelter, our clothes, paper products, all the different things that we use in our everyday life. We don't realize how much of what we use and what we care about actually comes directly from plants. So if you look at the roof on my house and the framing on my house, that's all comes from wood products that come from forest plantation, trees. My shirt, my clothes, almost all my clothes are derived from fibers that come from plants. Cotton, for example. So without plants, we wouldn't have shelter, we wouldn't have clothes, we wouldn't have paper for books to read. There's just all kinds of things that they provide. The fourth thing that plants provide to us is just natural beauty. So I'll just point out a couple of things I really love. Our Japanese maple trees, these black-eyed Susans, just color and a diversity of textures that make this yard really, for me, in my opinion, really beautiful. My wife has planted most of these things in the yard. And just the lining of the trees, and if all these plants were removed from the landscape and the grass was torn out, this would have a much different feel to it. And as you go into nature, when we say nature, what we're really talking about is the habitat and the beauty of nature. That is the foundation of all of that are plants that provide that natural beauty. You can imagine what would Earth be like without plants. You look at the surface of Mars, it's just rocks and soil, right? And so beauty is the fourth thing that plants provide to us. The last thing that plants provide to us, and this is a little bit harder to see, is they provide the conditions by which life can thrive on this planet. So they moderate temperature extremes. If we didn't have plants on the planet, then really cold areas would be colder and really hot areas would be hotter. So they moderate the temperature. They also drive the water, nitrogen, and carbon cycles on the planet that allows life to even exist on the planet. So if we went down in here and looked in the soil and the roots, the plants are pumping carbon to feed the bacteria and the microbes that do the nutrient cycling that causes this carbon and nitrogen cycle to happen. And out of the pores of their leaves, water's coming up that forms clouds. And all of those three cycles are really important to life being able to exist on this planet. And it's plants that are really driving that. They're the engine, along with the microbes, that drive the cycles of Earth on our planet.